Welcome everyone to today's Hume Talk Online. My name's Liam, and together with Oscar, we're going to be talking to former pupil Frazer.
Hi everyone, Frazer was here at Hulme Grammar until 2011 and is now a professional actor. Frazer, welcome and thanks so much for joining us this session.
Yeah, of course. Nice to be here.
So if we turn back time to 2004 when you started your HGS journey, what were your favourite subjects?
My favourite subject. Well, I'd come from a music school actually, and so I really enjoyed music. Yeah, I had a great time in those lessons with Mr. Beatty and Mr. Hume, who I don't think are there anymore. I really loved the time in those lessons, and I'm trying to think what else was my favourite. I liked English. I really enjoyed English, and it's not a lesson, but I was always involved in the school production, which was really sort of the highlight of the year for me.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I'm in the school productions too. I've been doing it since year 10, I think, by now. So it is the best thing you can do in the school, really. It's just
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, and I've used, and you know what, I've worked in some really cool sort of theatre productions professionally, and I still think back to performing in the school productions and the lessons that's taught me, and it definitely has formed kind of a big part of how I operate today.
Yeah, Liam does backstage as well, but I'm on the show, and it's just the connections you make as well. They're really, really important throughout school life. I've met my best friends for it. It's really important to it.
I completely agree. Do you know what? The way that it's run at Hume, it's so admirable. It's really a similar atmosphere and a similar work ethic that you'd expect in a professional production. So yeah, I'm glad you're both involved and enjoying it.
Yeah, thank you. So how did you get from HGS to the red carpet? What was your journey like?
So I went straight to university. I studied up at St Andrews, and sort of like Hume actually, I did lots of extracurricular drama. So I wasn't studying drama; I studied English, but I did a lot of. I was involved in the Theatre Society and did a lot of work there. We took shows to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival every year, which is sort of a bridge from sort of student theatre and professional theatre. I caught the bug, and then from there I did a postgrad degree at drama school in Oxford, at the Oxford School of Drama. And yeah, from there they sort of launch you into the industry. So I got an agent and then just started auditioning and getting jobs. Yeah, I'm working from there.
Nice. How do you deal with rejection if you don't get a certain part?
Badly sometimes. No, look, rejection, honestly, rejection is 99.9% of my professional career. It's when you're an actor, the easy part is the acting. That's the fun bit. But the hardest work I ever do is when I'm not working, is auditioning and networking. And when you get an audition, you know that the likelihood is that you don't get the job. There are so many people going for these roles, especially the sort of larger scale things that I'm now in the mix for. There's people all over the world auditioning for these things, and yeah, it can be really hard because you put a lot of work in to getting to preparing for these auditions, and you think about what it would be like if you got these jobs and if you were able to play these roles in these big films or musicals or TV shows or whatever. It's really exciting, and then it comes to nothing quite often, most often. And the thing that's helped me is sort of realizing that the reason that you don't get it is usually not to do with your ability, not to do with your performance. It's to do with what you look like, what you sound like, how you would fit in with the rest of the cast that are already there. Could I believably play the son of that person who's already been cast? Or are they looking for someone a bit shorter? It often comes down to things that you can't control. So that's comforting. But yeah, it's really hard is the answer, and I'm still learning how to deal with rejection. Sometimes it's fine, and sometimes it's not fine. There's some things last year, some really, really big opportunities that I got very, very close to that would have been sort of life-changing, really. And when you don't get them, it's hard. And it can feel quite isolating because it's a hard thing to talk about with other people who aren't necessarily even getting the auditions. So I'm in a privileged position in that I'm being considered for these parts. But when you don't get them, the end result's the same, you know. So yeah, I take it quite badly sometimes, but yeah, I think it's just about kind of knowing that the opportunities that are for you will come to you.
So who's been your inspiration in school and your career to date? The biggest one, really.
Inspirations. You mean like sort of acting inspirations?
Whatever, really. Who's just inspires you to keep going when you get rejected and it feels like I don't know, really.
So in terms of my like acting inspirations, it's not necessarily certain like individual actors. It's like individual actors in certain performances. So I've got certain actors in certain films or TV shows that I think, that's the sort of thing I want to do, rather than like their whole career, you know. So people like, so there's a film called Brassed Off. Have you ever seen it?
No.
Okay, so Brassed Off. It's about brass bands, and a lot of it was filmed in Saddleworth actually, and a lot of the real brass bands in Saddleworth are sort of in the background of it. But it's about a brass band attached to a colliery, and the head of the brass band is played by Pete Postlethwaite, who's a really, really amazing screen and stage actor. He's passed away now, but you might know him from he's the friar in Baz Luhrmann's Romeo plus Juliet. He's in lots of things that you might recognize his face from.
Yeah.
But his performance in that is amazing, and I often reference that as like how I want to, the level that I want to achieve. Equally, someone like Michael Sheen in The Damned United, which is about Leeds United. Those are sort of my go-to performances that inspire me, as opposed to my go-to people that inspire me. But yeah, those are sort of my acting inspirations.
Yeah. I mean, it is really interesting. You should think it's certain people, but it makes sense that certain roles kind of gives you a goal that you want to get to by the end of it.
And it's not like I want to be like those people. I just see like, they have nailed that. And I like it when actors sort of disappear into the roles. Do you know what I mean by that? When they sort of, if you've got a famous actor doing a really fun performance, it's great. It's really fun to watch. But I like when those actors become the characters, and you can really separate them from the actor. It's so like individual and unique. And I think those two performances certainly do that. There's plenty more, but those two stand out.
Yeah,
amazing. So you were in the movie Better Man, and for anyone who's not seen it, can you give us a brief synopsis and tell us about your character Nate?
Yeah, sure. So Better Man is the biopic of Robbie Williams, with a twist in that Robbie in the film is presented as a CGI chimpanzee, and no one references it, but he appears as a chimpanzee the whole way through. And I play Nate, who is Rob's best friend from growing up. And as Robbie gets super famous and joins Take That and becomes a sort of sort of pop superstar, Nate stays at home in Stoke, quite grounded, and lives a very different life, and tries to be there for his friend, tries to support him. But ultimately, they sort of grow apart, and whereas once they were both sort of cut from the same cloth and very close. Yeah, they struggle to communicate by the end of the film until Robbie sort of turns things around.
Yeah, can you tell us a bit more about the audition process? Because it is this big blockbuster film, really, like the kind of stages you have to go through.
Yeah. You know what? The audition process was much the same as any other that I do, in that a tape. So when I audition for things for films, most often the way it works is I'll get an email from my agent saying, this production are interested in you. Can you send a self-tape in? So that's when I get a bit of the script and I will film myself doing the lines with someone off camera. And I send that away to the casting director, and then you wait and see what happens. And sometimes they say, yeah, that's great. We'd like you to meet with the director, or we'd like to meet with the casting director in person. And then there's multiple rounds. But yeah, so that's how it happened. I got an email. It was a tape. It was actually to play Robbie Williams. And I taped and didn't really hear anything for a couple of months after that. And then got another email saying, look, you didn't get Robbie, but we think you'd be right for this character. And so I taped again. And then we said, yeah. I met the director and the writers. It was over Zoom because it was all filmed out in Australia. So I met them over Zoom, and we had spent about 2 hours together, running the scenes, talking about their vision. They told me about the monkey. And then, the next day I got a call saying I got the job. And a week later, I was flown out to Australia, and I was there for 5 months filming it.
Wow. So you mentioned before about the CGI that was used in the movie. What changes have you seen in film or TV, or are you anticipating in the future with regards to technology?
So obviously this film is really sort of cutting edge in terms of the technology that's used. The VFX of the monkey was done by a company called Weta, who are based out in New Zealand. So they're the same company that do all the visual effects for Lord of the Rings, Planet of the Apes. So really sort of cutting edge visual effects company. And the way it worked on set was that there's a guy who plays Robbie. He's called John O'Davis. And so I did all my scenes with him. And he was wearing grey pajamas with black dots all over his face, and sometimes a camera on his head. And that was so the cameras that were all around the set could capture his movements and his facial expressions. And then that was sent back to the visual effects company, and they rendered the monkey on top of that. And now that's been done before. People, things like so Andy Serkis, who plays Gollum in Lord of the Rings, that was done in a similar way. This is the first time, though, that it's been done in a musical. So making the monkey sing and dance as well. So that's they're always pushing the boundaries of what they can do and how the technology is used and how real it looks. And if you see the film, it looks real. It looks like he's a photorealistic chimpanzee. He looks like he's in the scenes with us. So that was amazing. I mean, there's also a bit of AI used in the film. The narration of the film sounds like it's by Robbie Williams, and it's not. It's by the actor playing Robbie, but his voice is put through an AI filter to make it sound a little bit more like Robbie. Obviously, there's a massive push in the industry now to embrace AI and all this new technology, but everyone's quite wary as well. Obviously, in an industry like mine, it's so creative based. It relies on an artist's and individual sort of creative visions. AI has massive potential, right? You can see that across every sort of industry and that it's used in. But there's a big struggle in the industry, and in my industry, in the filmmaking industry at the moment, about how to use it, how best to use it, how to harness its power while still maintaining the integrity of those people's artistic vision. And that's the difficult balance, right? But yeah, I think absolutely we'll see sort of that sort of technology being incorporated more into films as we go forward, but I don't really know how. There's people far more clever than I am that decide how to do that.
You really need to consider the line between just helping the artist and taking over from the artist's position, because it can take a lot of that human emotion away from it because of the stuff we've seen.
Absolutely, and that was what those big strikes in the US last year, the writers' strikes, which were based largely around that the writers were going to have some of their work replaced by AI, and rightly they stood up to that and said no, because also, do you know what? There's been AI scripts floating around. So I read scripts and that come in for jobs, and there's been a few that are like part written by AI, and you can tell. I mean, they're surface level fine, but they don't have the same sort of AI. Can't give you that same sort of spark and creative flair and the twists that you need. You need someone with a clever, like, artistic mind to get that. So it will be incorporated more, but I don't think it will. It's not going to take over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what advice would you give to any students thinking of working in the arts in the future?
I'd say it can be the most rewarding industry in the world. It can give you some of your sort of best moments. It can be incredibly fulfilling, but it's also really tough. It's really tough, especially at the moment. There's lots of things that make working in the arts at the moment really, really difficult. Government cuts, they're not funded. It's not funded like it used to be. We're still reeling from the effects of the pandemic, so there's a lot less money going around, and yeah, it's oversubscribed. There's lots of people working. There's lots of people in the industry who are all brilliant artists, but there's only so many jobs to go around. So it's a you have to be scrappy, and it's not all plain sailing. So I've been in this big film. I've done big theatre jobs, big TV jobs, and it's not plain sailing for me. It's really difficult sometimes. I have long stretches where I don't work, and that's the same across lots of parts of the arts, not necessarily just acting. So you have to be ready to be driven and committed, and you need to know the realities of it. But at the same time, it's incredibly fulfilling, and if you're passionate about it and you're serious about making it work, it's a great industry to be in, and a very supportive industry.
I think it can be one of the most fun industries as well, really, boiled down to it, because you won't get anything more fun than entertaining people, making them laugh.
No, and that's why people do it, right? That's why I do it. That's why I put myself through the difficult times. Is because when you're working and when it's good, it's incredible.
Yeah. Can I just say before you go, I have to ask, my girlfriend would kill me if I didn't. Did you meet Robbie Williams, and what was he like?
Yeah, I did. So he was on set quite a lot when we were filming. Obviously, it's his life story, so he was very involved. He was very generous with his time, and yeah, he's great. I mean, the thing that's so amazing about Rob is that he's for the film he was really willing to show like the worst parts of his life, and willing to go to those really dark places. It must be really difficult for him to watch the film because he doesn't come across particularly well in it. He's quite honest about how he was and the sort of bad things that he did. So I admire his honesty. But yeah, he was really open and willing to help in any way that he could, whilst also sort of staying out of it and knowing that it was his story, yes, but he wasn't making it. he wasn't really involved in putting it together. So he stepped back and let us get on with it, which was great.
Yeah, it shows his commitment really when to spread his message that you can, even though it doesn't seem like it, there is always a better side to it. You just need to keep going.
Yeah, and that's what he shows in the film. I mean, he's a completely different person now. He went through some really, really tough times. I mean, he talks about the themes in the film about how they were treated, how him and his bandmates were treated in the music industry in the 90s. It's dreadful, and so you see parallels with things that are happening today, like the death of Liam Payne from One Direction. All those, there's history's repeating itself, and yeah, I think this film stands as a good message and sort of a good red flag to show you this can't happen, this can't go on any longer. And he's come out the other side of it, and now he's sort of preaching that message.
Okay, just to end, we're just going to say a huge thank you on behalf of all the pupils here at Hulme Grammar for taking the time to talk to us. It was a brilliant insight to your world, and you gave us some excellent advice as well.
Yeah, of course. No, it's been lovely to speak to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for watching today, and we'll see you for another Hulme Talk soon. Bye.